Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. A few weeks ago, talked to my children, Shalva, who's 8, and my son Adiv, who's 6. They told me of a situation at their school. My son Adiv plays soccer every time at recess. And he said there was these few days last week where all the other kids who were playing soccer started to get very wild and unkind. I said, well, what did you do? He said, well, I went to see my sister Shalva. And I asked her, what should I do? And she told me exactly what to say and what to do. I went back and I did it, and it solved the whole situation. And I thought, wow, this is amazing, right? This is how siblings should be with each other. They should support each other. They should love each other. They should be there in those moments. And of course, this is not always how the book of Genesis and the Torah shows how siblings act with each other. And throughout the book of Genesis, what siblings end up doing is getting caught into rivalries and jealousies. Just last week we saw how the blessing was stolen from Esau by Jacob in the moment of treachery. But there's also other moments that aren't talked about as much, or they're highlighted by the rabbis that do show the other side and that show us what we're trying to aim for, not only what we're trying to avoid. And there's this beautiful midrash on this week's parsha. And so this week's parsha is how Jacob flees his childhood home and comes to his uncle's home in Padan Aram, far away in Turkey from the Holy Land. And we know that Jacob falls in love with Rachel almost straight away, and he wants to marry her, but his future father-in-law says, his uncle, well, you can marry Rachel, but you have to work for 7 years. And we know what happens on the evening when he's supposed to get married to her. He's fooled, and he wakes up in the morning, and it's not Rachel, it's Leah. And Rachel, who is said by the Torah that she's beautiful, and Leah, who's only described by the term that she's weak-eyed, but understood by the Midrash, one more beautiful and one less beautiful. And so Laban tells him, right, it is not our custom to marry the younger daughter before the older daughter. You have to work for another 7 years. Oy is right. But there's a question on this I think we all probably have, and that the commentators have had. How could he be fooled after seeing Rachel for 7 years, after knowing who she was? How could Jacob, the patriarch of Judaism, be fooled and be married on the run? And where was Rachel in all this? She knew she was to be married to Jacob. Where was she on this night? And how did all this happen? How could this situation and the qualities that we associate with our patriarchs and matriarchs not come into play a little bit more into this story? And so there's this midrash. So this midrash says that, yes, Rachel and Jacob did love each other, actually, but that Jacob suspected that his uncle Laban was going to do something treacherous and duplicitous. So what did he do? He made of Rachel because he knew how dark it was, and he knew he might be fooled. This is a midrash, right, on that night. So he made special signs of Rachel where they could tell each other that she was the right one. And they made up these special secret signs. So then it came time for the wedding night and for the wedding, and Rachel was there, and she saw her older sister Leah, who she loved so very much. And she knew her sister's struggles, and she just had this moment where she thought, I need to do something so my sister can also have a husband. So she went and taught Leah all the signs so that she could be there. And so on the wedding night came, Leah knew all the signs. And there's even a midrash that Rachel was under the bed helping to guide Leah with all the signs into this. So it's in some ways a very difficult midrash, right? But it's too much for Vladimir. And I haven't even told you the full midrash, but we'll talk about that afterwards. On one hand, our hearts go out to Jacob in this story, and yet I want to put that aside because it just shows, and the rabbis are very aware of this, even more foolery against Jacob and even more reaping what he sowed, right? He fooled, and now he's getting fooled in return, even more fooled according to the midrash. But where the lesson is for me is that yes, siblings can revile each other. Yes, siblings can hate each other and do everything they can in their power to go against them. But siblings are also also capable, and we've all seen this in this life. Siblings can go out of their way to do incredible acts of self-sacrifice, sacrificing their own well-being, sacrificing what's best for them, for their brother or sister, for the people they love. And we see this with, not Cain and Abel, obviously. And we see this later in the Torah with Moses and Aaron and Miriam, right? These are siblings that they have, they have their bumps like everybody, but they're the partners in redeeming Am Yisrael. They're the partners in redeeming the Jewish people. And Aaron is called by God to give up everything he has and to go and help his brother Moses. And their partnership through all the difficulties and all the trials is so close. And they show so much love to each other, and they embrace this and that. So and of course, in the story of Joseph, once they get through all of what they had to get through at the end, there is really a story of love underneath. How the brothers come together, forgive each other, and there's that sense of redemption. And it's the rabbi's way of showing, if this really unusual midrash, but trying to show what we should be doing for each other, what we should be doing for our brothers and sisters, what we should be doing for Achenu Kol Beit Yisrael, for our brothers and sisters of the house of Israel, what we should be doing for all the Jewish people and for all of humanity. And that's not getting into situations of rivalry and of jealousy with each other, but of trying to be supportive, of self-sacrifice, of trying to see the good in each other and being willing to go the extra mile for them. And what a beautiful vision that is. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.